I had a surplus in tomatoes this year and I am super excited. So we're going to be making marinara sauce, which is one of my favorite things. And I love using my own sauce because I know what's in it. And typically it's going to be herbs from my garden, the tomatoes, and almost everything else right out of the garden that makes the tomato sauce. This year, I started my plants late, and so I did not get a chance to plant celery. So I have store-bought celery in my tomato sauce. Most everything else is right out of my garden, so I'm super excited about that. I typically make tomato sauce a variety of different ways, and it's just basic ingredients: tomatoes, of course onions, of course garlic, and basil. And then you definitely can decide if you want to add oregano, thyme, some other seasonings to it as well. I made a super simple one last year, and if you saw my little short this year where I was making pizzas at a campsite, that was a homemade marinara, and that one was yummy. I wish I would have written the recipe down because I'd like to duplicate it again. But usually I'm just placing items into the pot or the pan. And of course, something like pasta, you want to take your time to have that taste here and there, just to make sure it's capturing the flavors that you want. If you want a chunky marinara or a chunky pasta sauce, don't do my last step, which is going to be blending it in the blender. You can leave it chunky and just can it or give it a water bath that way, or just enjoy it immediately. Of course, the amount that I'm making for this video is enough to can. If you're not looking to preserve sauce, maybe you want to watch the video and then reverse my measurements to about a quarter if you're looking just for pasta sauce for your immediate consumption, or maybe half, depending on your family size, and then that should kind of get you in the ballpark that you need. So without much ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. for the herb bag, we are going to use cheesecloth to create the bag, and I'm just gonna open it up. You can fold it over and do a 2-ply, you know, if you're worried about something making its way through the cheesecloth. I'm not too concerned, so I'm gonna start with the thyme, and definitely I've already cleaned it, but you know, just definitely give it the once over again to make sure all is well. So I'm gonna start that pretty much right smack dab in the center of my cheesecloth. And then I'm going to take 4 leaves of sage, and these are actually just right out of my garden. So I have, again, wash and dry them. I'm gonna go ahead, just cut off the stems, put that in there. I do have some dried basil, and this is actually basil from my garden from last year. So I'm putting that in there. And then I also have like 2 just pieces of orange rind that I'm also going to place in there just for a little bit of flavor. And then I'm going to take my bag and I'm just going to twist it around like that. If you have like cooking twine or the silicone little ties, I used to have those when I ate meat, but once I stopped eating meat, I got rid of those, so I no longer have those, but I'm just gonna make a knot like that, and then I'm just going to make sure that that knot is tight. I'm going to use my cooking shears and just cut off that excess, and then that way it'll just be able to fit nicely right into our sauce as it is cooking. I'm going to have you join me at the stove, and we're just going to start sweating the onions with celery and garlic, and then we're going to add in the tomatoes, a little herb, and then it's going to cook for about an hour. And then thereafter, you can consume it immediately, blend it, and preserve it. The tomato sauce has been cooking for about an hour, and you can kind of see where the level was and where it's cooked down to. So you just want a lot of that liquid to just kind of cook down a little bit. If you don't use the pulp from the tomato, and so your base is just a little dry. Go ahead and add like maybe a cup of water or some white wine into it. But I went ahead and just, again, use that pulp. Definitely do taste. It's very good. I did add additional oregano as well as some more salt and pepper while it was cooking, so you definitely do want to season to taste. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to load it into my blender, and I'm going to blend it, and then I'm going to add it into my jars for preserving. Because I want to make sure that everything is seasoned the same and well, I'm going to do like partial blending. So I'm going to start here, blend this smooth. I'm going to pour it into my bowl here. And then after it's all blended, I'm going to kind of stir it together and then ladle that out into my jars to preserve it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with this one. Sometimes I do place like a bay leaf inside of, not in the little sachet that I had there. Usually I'll just stick like a couple bay leaves like in it and let it cook. Make sure you pull those out so you don't blend those up. Sometimes, and actually I usually just stick the bay leaf right into the jar with it, so it can continue just kind of giving it that flavor, and it works really nicely. So I'm not sure if you've tried that, but I like to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and mute the sound just because this makes a little bit of noise. And my sauce almost looks like a vodka sauce. It is a lighter orange. I really don't mind if the sauce is lighter in color. What matters to me is the taste. When I'm preserving tomato sauce, I generally use a variety of different jars. Sometimes if I'm making a large dinner or something like that, maybe a lasagna, where I need a larger container, this comes in really handy. Maybe when I'm doing something like pizza or like a small meal or something where I really don't need a lot of pasta sauce. It's nice to have it in a smaller container so that way there's no waste that's involved. With it being blended, you also definitely can use a funnel, and that will just help keep everything really nice and neat. You want to make sure that that edge is nice and clean. With the funnel, that definitely helps that job, very much so. So I'm going to just sit that lid that's been ready for this right on top. Just get that screwed down nice and great and set it off to the side as I'm filling the other jars. So right now I'm just waiting for the water in the canner to start boiling. And when it does, I'm going to place the jars into the hot bath to allow them to go through that bath process for about 20 minutes. So I'm going to, once I put the jars in, wait for that water to start boiling again, set my timer for 20 minutes, and then it will be done. Take them out, set them off to the side to cool, and you have tomato sauce for about a year's time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do like, subscribe, share, And I'm super excited about the number of people watching the videos. So hopefully this is additional content that you're looking forward to. I'm hoping that you, your family are safe, healthy, and very well. I look forward to you joining me again. Bye for now. Speaking of a large tomato harvest, sometimes you might have such a surplus of tomatoes that you can't quite eat them all fresh without them going bad on you. So a couple items that you can do is stick them whole. Especially I love the little cherry sized tomatoes to stick whole in the freezer. And then when you take them out, the skin usually peels off really nicely, and you can use it for whatever recipe you might have. Dice them up. Another idea that I do, and that is actually to take them and to go ahead and slice them up. And I go ahead, I put them into a Ziploc bag and stick them on that top shelf in the freezer, or if you have a deep freeze, you know, right in the deep freeze where it's flat. And that's kind of the way I have these here. So basically just like one layer, stick them in there, they freeze instantly, and then they don't really stick to each other. You want to make sure they're really dry. For the diced tomatoes, I am going to use a larger bag, try to get them in, and after they're all in, I'm going to make the bag flat when I go to stick it into the freezer. But for the diced ones, you can eat it with the skin on, or if the skin peels off, that's great. But what I usually do with the diced ones is when I'm doing things like bruschetta, or if I do need tomatoes that are diced up, for example, if I'm making like a vegan omelet or something like that, and I add tomatoes, I can just grab the frozen ones out. They're already cut up, throw them in the skillet with maybe some kale and some other spinach or onions, other things that I'm putting into it, and it works really nicely. So please don't throw away those tomatoes. Definitely do share if your neighbors did not plant anything, or friends or coworkers. Definitely do share, but if you have that surplus, definitely freeze them, pull them out when you need them. It's a great little thing to do.